I met with a client last night. It was a young couple, and I love them because they're actually planning for marriage. And I know in the Catholic Church, they require you to go to the pre-Cana classes, which is where I got my start teaching marriage classes. But this couple wasn't even required. They're getting married in their local church. And they decided they wanted to prepare for marriage in advance. So I just want to say I love the foresight of this couple, and it just right away says that this couple's going to have an advantage because they care enough to think about what are we going to need to do? How can we be prepared? A full confession, the young man was one of my students at the university, and he's like, I just love what you used to say about couples, and here he is and takes it seriously. So that isn't even the point of this video, but it is worth saying that if you know anyone that's getting married, maybe a gift for them would be to have them go see a marriage counselor in advance. Your gift to them, pay for someone to coach them. I do that. Send them to me. If I'm not your person, send them to someone else. What a great gift it would be. All right, that's kind of my commercial that I was passionate about, but it led me to the conversation that I'm about to talk about now. So as we were speaking, the bride-to-be had a concern. We've been meeting a couple times already. And one of her concerns was she's recently been through something traumatic in her family, and she called her fiance and it cried to him about how traumatic this was. And the situation was something the average person doesn't go through. It was traumatic. And the fiance, the young man, was hurting for her. He listened to her and he didn't know what to say. And he's like, okay, I'll talk to you about it later. And her feelings were that he couldn't even connect, that he didn't care, that he didn't have the right words. Why can't you console me? This is horrible. To be honest, a family member had just been incarcerated. So who experiences that, right? Not as many of us, more than we think. So it makes sense that this young fiance didn't know what to say. He had never dealt with that in his family either. These were two very good, wholesome kids. They both came from intact families. Both their parents were still married, which there's a rarity right there. So as we talked and I empathized with her, she got it that I got it. And I was like, man, that must suck. I have a friend in prison and I know what that's like, and here's what we talk about, and here's how I feel, and people ostracize me sometimes. People actually judge me for being friends with this person in prison. And she felt validated because you get it. You get it. But then I said to her, A, I get it because I have a friend in prison, but B, you and I are girls. So now that I've given you about a 75-minute intro, the whole point of this video was this. Men and women do not communicate the same way. Duh, right? You knew that. But I'm going to reiterate something I've said in other videos, but I wanted to really make the point. Ladies, please lower your standards if you expect that your husband's always going to have the right things to say. More often than not, he will not. He doesn't know what to say. And I'll tell you after I'm done talking about why, what you can do instead. But what I've said in past videos is this difference in the way our brains are made. And I have talked about the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere and this corpus callosum down the center that connects the two. So women are much better, first of all, at relating because the corpus callosum sends the messages from the left hemisphere to the right hemisphere. So if you think in terms of scientific relationships, something that's happening here is firing, is relating to something here, is relating there. And all these relationships within the neural pathways are being made. So women can make connections that guys just can't make because the male baby, when he's in his mom's womb, gets a shot of testosterone, which kind of singes these pathways in the corpus callosum. So the man, if he's using this part of his brain, it doesn't leave that part of the brain. It's not making a relationship to something over here or something over here. And women are often like, how are you not seeing that? Well, they don't. But when we talk about these differences in the brain, we're also talking about verbal differences. Here's something else you may not know, because I don't think I've said it on a video before. The woman's emotion center, we have two. They used to think we had one amygdala, but science is saying there are two amygdalae. They believe one is positive emotions and one is negative emotions. But the woman's amygdalae, are attached to her verbal center. So a woman, no matter what she feels, what she's thinking, she is going to that verbal center. She's going to have a word for it. I felt so upset. I felt devastated. I felt horrified. I need help. My family member and I need, and so if this young lady was talking to a girlfriend, that female, when she spoke to me, it immediately went to my emotion center, because my emotion center knew what she was feeling. Well, maybe, right? But then I had the words. I had the ability to say, oh, I have felt judged. I have felt intimidated. I have felt disrespected. I have felt blah, blah, blah. I have felt rejected for being friends with this person in prison. And she was like, yes. And the tears came and she got it and she felt this peace. But what I said to her is, this man that is sitting next to you, he loves you very much and he feels just as badly as I do. It's just that he doesn't have his amygdalae wrapped around his verbal center. The male brain cannot. In most cases, you get some men that are fantastic communicators, but they are the rarity. Most men have their amygdala attached to their spinal cord. What's the spinal cord responsible for? Movement, right? So if a guy feels something, he's just got to do something. He's got to hammer. He's got to go for a bike ride. He's got to go box in a boxing rink. He's just got to go move his body. And that releases all this, these feelings. Whether they're good feelings because I just watched my team score. I'm like all excited. Or he just heard something devastating. He's just got to go freaking hit something or move his body or, You kind of feeling what I feel like right now? I'm just like, trying to let this emotion out when it gets to our bodies like that. You've seen this in boys, you've seen this in men, but you probably didn't articulate it. And though you may have seen this, this lesson is foremost for you ladies. I do know that most of the people that watch me are ladies anyway. But if it's a man watching, I want you to be able to understand, maybe give this video to the woman in your life. Because ladies, he loves you. But if you judge him on the fact of whether or not he has the right things to say, he's going to fail and you're going to get a hard heart. You don't care. I've seen this way too often. You don't care. You didn't even say this. All you had to say was, well, he didn't know what he had to say. He was dying. He would have cut off his right arm to have the right words to say to you because he loves you. He loves you. He really loves you. And with this young couple, because they hadn't yet developed hard hearts, because they're in this new stage of their relationships, these little hurts where they still have this great love for each other, they were able to go, oh, okay, I get it. But many of you watching this video, you've had 20 or 30 years together where you've just like, he doesn't care at all. He never says anything. All she does is complain that I never know the right things to say. Never know. Blah, blah, blah. She complains. Most of the time, it's because we misunderstand how God created our brains. God. Again, why a man could never be a woman and a woman could never be a man. There are so many differences. Not even just the XX. Is it XX? Yes, XX and the XY chromosomes. It affects our brain. The woman's brain is so much more complex and so much more beautiful and so much more adept at relating to other people. But that's because God chose us to be that way. How dare we get arrogant if we think, well, it's anything I did. No, it isn't. I'm very good at communicating. It ain't nothing I did. It's a gift God gave me. I cultivated it. I went to school, I got an education. My husband could have gotten an education, but he would never, ever, ever have the skills I have communicating. So I'm asking you ladies to check yourselves. Are you hard-hearted because he just can't say the right things? Or maybe not. So here's our solution. What I often teach people, and what I said to this couple is, if you are face to face when you're hearing something and you don't know what to say, one of the best things to do is to lean in and then just hold the other person. No matter what your love language is, it's just holding that person says, I love you. I love you. Touch will often do it. When that person's feeling away and you can't articulate, you can't fully come up with the words that she might want you to come up with, just say, I wish I had the right words. It's okay to memorize, mostly speaking to you guys, right? This pat answer. Of course, if it's true and you show her that it's true, I wish I had the right words for you, but I don't. I love you. Or you could say something like, that must hurt, right? Sometimes she'll say, no, it doesn't hurt, it's angering. The point is to communicate the fact that I don't have the words. And if you don't have the words, but you do have the touch and you do have the love, you can just say, I'm here for you. So that's just one example out of 13 billion that you'll probably have to come up with in the future. But this is basically to understand this difference. Men are never going to have the verbal capacities that women do, and that's not their fault. They can cultivate what God gave them, but we need to keep our standards realistic. Gentlemen, it doesn't let you off the hook to not try to love your wife, right? Love the verb. So you need to find a way to show her the love that you have, the fact that you're listening, the fact that you care. And if you don't think you're going to say the right thing or do the right thing, ask her, what can I do to help make this better? Ask her. There's not a woman out there that's not going to want to receive a man who's genuinely saying, what can I do to make this better for you? Because if you really care and you really mean that sentence, that's true love. Wow. You want to make it better for me? So, sorry if this message is a crossover from others or a little bit redundant, but as I meet with people, I always like to talk about the topics that we've talked about because they're fresh in my brain. We're not alone. You're not alone. You're unique, yet we're all a lot the same. So let's extend grace to our loved ones. Let's just be Christ-like, knowing, do I harden myself because this isn't my dream person anymore? Or am I loving like I should as a female? Am I loving by accepting Danny the way he is, accepting people? Or am I being unloving, expecting them to be like the God of Christine? You ask yourself, make that decision. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. You can always go to my website, breakfastwithbacon.com, and please make sure to share this with your friends and family. I'm sure somebody can benefit from it. And if you need to get a hold of me, Christine at breakfastwithbacon.com. So, you've been watching another informational Bacon Bit. I'm Dr. Christine Bacon, and I want to remind you always to live your life sunny side up.